All right, what is going on, guys? Okay, so this is for the people that want to learn options. If you're a beginner to options, this is a great way to make money. Now, one thing I will say before I get into this, this intimidation on the screen, I will say that it is a lot riskier than just buying shares. Okay, so you got to know your risk. You got to know that, I mean, you can make a lot of money and you can lose a lot of money. You have to manage your risk properly. Okay, and that's something that each individual has to do. You have to understand, when you're going to cut your positions, when you're going to, take your loss and move on. Okay. So, okay. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, there's a few things that basically all this stuff on the screen, the only things that you really need to pay attention to is the strike price, the call or put, whether you're going to go long or you're going to go short, your expiration, your theta, your delta, and this ask price, which is the price that you're going to pay for the contract. Okay. Now I'll explain each individual one. Okay. So let's start with this. This is pretty self-explanatory. You buy a call, you think the price is going to go up. Currently, Tesla is sitting at 370, 369. So if you think that Tesla is going to go up, you're going to buy a call option. If you think that Tesla is going to go down, you're going to buy a put option, and you're going to pick a strike that's lower than the current price. Okay. Now the next thing is this expiration. Okay. So this expiration, and I'll show you here in a minute. So if you see these numbers on the side here, that is basically what you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay a premium to get into that contract. Okay, so you can see here that this $380 strike is $297. So you're gonna pay $297 to get in that contract. It expires in 4 days, which I believe that's like Monday or something like that. So that's what you're gonna pay. Now, if you notice, if you go to, let's just say, August 21st, that's 148 days to expiration. That's basically half a year almost. You go to that same one, and 380 is 4450. So you're literally going to pay $4,450. Now remember that these prices are always times 100, because you're basically controlling 100 shares. So it's kind of like you're buying 100 shares of Tesla without buying 100 shares of Tesla. Okay, so when you see these, $44.50, you're timesing that times 100. So again, if $44.50 times 100, that's $4,450. Okay. So again, if this thing moves, 5.0, 5.0, you just made $500. Okay. So that's basically what was it? Oh yeah, the expiration. Now, one thing I will say, the shorter expiration you have, the riskier it is, but you could potentially make more. Okay. The longer expiration, the contract will probably move slower, but it's also less risky. Now, I like to play on the less risky side. I like to give my contracts at least, I would say, 3 weeks. Sometimes I'll do, like 2 weeks or less, if I see like a good play or something like that. But I like to give my contracts at least 3 weeks, if not longer, if not sometimes like 6 months, because if the stock keeps dumping, you can continue to buy those contracts and continue to average down. Okay. And you could just basically just buy another contract. Okay. So that's basically the call side, that's the put side, and that is the expiration. Okay. So now I'm going to explain the ask price. Now, again, I just talked about this. This is going to be times 100. So all these numbers that you see, a dollar, that's times 100. So that's going to be $100. 162, $162. That's what you're going to pay. Okay. Now, again, like I said, going back, it's going to correlate with the strike price. I mean, if these things are short dated, you could get yourself wrecked, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm going to talk about theta in just a minute, and I'll show you why the expiration matters, and I'll show you why it's a better thing to have your contracts expire in 3 weeks, if not longer, 4 to 5 months. They might cost more, but I'll explain it here in just a second. Okay. So that's really all this ask price is that's how much you're going to pay. Now, the closer you get to the price, the more liquid that contract is going to be. And that's what brings me to the strike price over here. Okay. If you were to go basically to a strike price that's, let's just say again, this one's expiring tomorrow, and you were to get into a $425 call, I mean, that costs you $2. Tesla would have to move $10 for this thing to go from $2 to $3. You see what I'm saying? But if you were to pick something like $375 call, it'll cost you $247. But if Tesla moves $2, that thing's going to be probably worth $350. You just made $100 just like that. Okay. So I try not to pick strikes that are too far out unless I get like something that's, 6 months out on my expiration. If I have my expiration 6 months out, 8 months out, a year out, yeah, I'll probably pick something like 450. But if my strike is like, or should I say, if my expiration is like 2-3 weeks away, you're not going to find me picking a $435 strike. Like again, I'll show you firsthand. If I were to pick this one, okay, this one expires in 22 days. I would probably be looking for something like this, probably this 410 one right here. It's $330, and actually that's still kind of far. I'd probably pick 400. It's $530. It's 24 $26 away, but it'll move pretty nicely. I'd have to look at the volume on it, but it would move pretty nicely. But if I were to pick something way over here, $730, I mean, look at that, it's $4. Literally it's going to be like a zigzag. So I mean, for this thing to move to $5, Tesla would have to pump $20. Okay, so now again, you're going to pay a little bit more, right? You're going to pay a little bit more for the closer you have your strike. But again, like I said, it'll be more liquid, and that's what you want. You want more liquid. So that way, I mean, sometimes you can get in a play and get out in a minute and make 10, 20, 34%, 30, 40, 50% because it's liquid. Okay. But if you're picking those higher strikes, now you needed to make these monster moves. Okay. So that's pretty much it with the strikes, the ask prices, the calls, the puts, the expirations. Let me go into an actual let me go into an actual, what's it called? Options. Okay, so for instance, let's go to this. Yeah, let's go to this one right here. Okay. All right, I picked a different call option because I wanted to show you a longer term dated contract and then a shorter term dated contract. Now this one expires, I believe in 4/6. Okay, so like what, 2.5, 2 weeks ish. So no, actually, no, like a week and a half, something like that. Okay, so basically, this is what I look for, and I'm going to explain what these are. The main thing I'm only going to explain what I mainly look at, which is the delta, which is the delta, the theta, and the volume. That's, for me, that's mainly the important things, and this is what I look for. Okay, now remember, like I said previously, how when you're buying a contract, it's like you're controlling 100 shares, so you have to times those prices times 100, and that's what you're paying. Would be the same thing here. Okay, so with the delta, what this says, and this is why you want to look at the delta, that would be 0.25. Let's just call it 0.26. So basically, every dollar that Tesla moves up or down, the contract is going to move 0.26. Remember, times 100, which would be $26. Okay. So if you're buying this contract at, what is this? $380, and Tesla goes down $3, then basically it would be $26 times 3. That's what, $78. So you'd be down $78. If it goes up $3, then you'd be up $78. And then at that point, you can say, hey, you know what, $78, I'll take it. You get out of the position. Okay. So that is what that delta is. So I always look at that delta and I'm like, okay, cool. This option will move, it's at 0.40. So every dollar, this thing's going to move $40. That's insane. Okay. Excuse me. So, and then another one theta. This is bad for you, okay? This is 0.38. So if you were to times that times, again, 100, that should be $38. So basically, every day that you don't close this position, as because remember, it expires on 4/6. So every day that you hold this contract and you don't close the position, this contract automatically loses value. So if you see these contracts just continue to go down and you're not selling them, and that's why I say that's where the risk factor comes in. You want to sell, you want to get in these short dated contracts, get in, get your money, and get out. Because if you hold this on day of expiration, your $380 is basically going to be zero. Okay. So, and that's the thing that sucks about it. Like I said, $38, that's a pretty nasty hit. So, tomorrow, this thing's already going to be down $38. Okay. And then the last thing I look at is volume. Again, like I said, the more volume it has, the more liquid it's going to be. You see how liquid that is? You see how, I mean, you see the price went from $800 all the way down to $300 today, 300 and change. Okay. So I always look at the volume. If you have a volume that's like two, it's literally it's going to do zigzag and you don't want that because now it's going to be so hard for you the volume is somebody else trading. So if there's only two people trading, basically it's going to be hard to sell your contract, and you don't want to mess with that. Okay. So now let me go back to the other one and let me show you the difference. So the delta on that one was what, 0.26, and the theta was 0.38. Now this is why I say I like longer term, longer contracts. They are a bit pricier. This one costs, basically $2,000. But look at the deltas. This is gonna move $42 in your direction. So if Tesla moves up $1, you're gonna make $42. And as if you keep carrying that option, look at the theta. It's 0.20. So you're only going to lose $20 as opposed to almost 40. Now, remember, the longer you keep this contract, the more that this theta will go up, okay? So it's not going to just stay at 20. It's going to go, 21, 22 the longer you hold these contracts. Now, I don't say that to scare you. I mean, like I said, you can make your money, get your money and get out. Sometimes if you have to hold the contract next day, you have to do what you got to do. But if you bought it Monday and you're holding it, you bought it Monday, it expires on Friday, and you have it on Friday, that contract's basically gone. Okay. So that's basically it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. But that's basically like, the core, the meat and potatoes. Okay. And like I said, if you have any questions, always feel free to ask me in the Discord.